All right. So hello everyone, and thank you for watching me, for attending this virtual meeting. My name is Cristiano Potamianos. I am a registered massage therapist, and I am a meditation facilitator. I have my own business called ZEN Massage here in Calgary, in Alberta, in Minapur, and I also host meditation meetings. But first of all, I would like to thank Robin for the invitation. It's always a great pleasure, and uh, I'm always very thankful to be able to talk about something that I'm very passionate about, which is Zen. So yeah, so at the end of our talk here, if you guys have questions, I'll be very happy to answer them. And the topic of our talk tonight is Zen. What is it? Why bother about it? And how to practice? This is a title that when Robin asked me what I would like to talk about, this is the title that came up to me because a lot of people don't know what Zen is. They have like a vague idea of what it is. They associate it with relaxation, and which is not wrong, but it's much more. So, but before I start talking, I'm gonna give a little bit of my background, and so you can understand why I'm talking about Zen. I am originally from Brazil, and I started practicing meditation and Buddhism 20 years ago in Brazil. That's where I am from, and that's where I met my first meditation master. But when I began in this path, I, it was not Zen, the first form of Buddhism that I came across. It was my first master. He was a Tibetan Lama. So Tibetan Buddhism was the first form of Buddhism that I was introduced to, and I practiced Tibetan Buddhism for 10 years, and under the guidance of this Tibetan Lama. Now, the good thing about this, I was very fortunate that this master, before he became a Tibetan Lama, he practiced Zen for many years. So in his case was kind of the contrary. He started with Zen and then with the Tibetan, and I started with the Tibetan and I ended up with Zen. I moved to Canada in 2008, and after there was a lot of transition in my life, and at one point I decided to transition to Zen. Now, even though Zen is a different school of Buddhism, uh, it doesn't have any conflicts with the Tibetan. It's just that there are different methods of meditation. So today in my meetings, when the meditation meetings that I host, I always try to bring a little bit of both worlds, a little bit of techniques from both the Tibetan and the Zen. But I think the Zen is more appropriate to our busy lifestyles that we have nowadays. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Zen. Zen, as I said, is a school of Buddhism, um, but I don't like to associate it with religion because Zen doesn't have any dogmas. It's not a belief system. It doesn't have any do's and don'ts, rights and wrongs. It's just a method of looking at yourself. Let's put this way. But Zen started the very root of Zen started with Gautama the Buddha when one of his disciples got enlightened. And this disciple of his, at the time he got enlightened, they say that there was a secret transmission from the Buddha to this disciple. Uh, uh, so there is this direct transmission. It's what it's called. And this direct transmission of teaching without even words, just looking, is what originated in Zen. So this disciple of the Buddha, then he traveled India and he had his own disciples. He formed his own school. And one of his disciples, centuries later, took these teachings and to China. And in China, these teachings merged with Taoism from Lao Tzu. So this master from India that went from India to China was called Bodhidharma. And his teachings, when arrived in China back in, I want to say, century fifth, these teachings were merged with Taoism, the teachings of Lao Tzu. And then Zen was born. But in China, it was called Chen. And then this new sort of tradition went from China to Japan. And in Japan, it was called Zen. And Zen, so then comes from a Sanskrit word that is called dhyana. And dhyana is meditation. But it's not any form of meditation, because meditation there are many types of meditation. Now, dhyana is the very last step of the teachings of the Buddha when he taught the eightfold path to enlightenment. So the very last step is called dhyana, which is called right meditation. And so this school of Buddhism, Zen, then as you can see, they start from the very last step. They don't, they kind of ignore everything else before, because they say, okay, let's just start from the last because this is what really matters. So Zen then has become known for being a transmission of method, a direct method from master to disciple, ignoring scriptures, ignoring old teachings. So every master is very direct and gives these teachings custom made for every disciple instead of following Buddhist literature. They do sometimes refer and make use of Buddhist literature, but it's not very common. It's a direct transmission. So going back to the word dhyana, the right meditation, this is a method of being in a state of thoughtless awareness. Now, we say in Zen that when we are in this state, our mind, our thinking mind, subsides. And now we come to the point, why practice Zen? The reason I think it's the most important why we practice Zen is because everybody wants to be free of fear, free of anxiety, free of depression, and have a healthy mental health. And in Zen, when we practice dhyana, we see that the source of our problems, the source of our sufferings, comes from our minds, from our own minds, and from the identification with the mind. So dhyana comes as an antidote then that allows you or the practitioner to see how we are getting stuck in mental scenarios, how we are creating mental scenarios of suffering, and how we are getting ourselves identified and attached to those mental scenarios. So this alone is, for me, like a huge reason why to practice Zen. Who wants to suffer anxiety? Who wants to be depressed? Who wants to be stuck in a loop, always making the same choices, going to the same, making the same decisions, reacting and experiencing the same emotions? This alone for me is a reason enough in order for us to want to get out of it. So dhyana then comes as this antidote, this method of uh, a method that teaches us to look deep into ourselves and see first how we are the ones who are creating those mental scenarios. Those mental scenarios, they are not us. Our true identity does not depend on those scenarios, but we think we do. So by practicing, we see that we create those mental scenarios and we identify with those mental scenarios as coming from an outside source. So there is this discrepancy, that we think that the suffering then comes from something external instead of internal. This is what in Buddhism is called ignorance. It's not a lack of knowledge, of intellectual knowledge or anything like that. It's just this discrepancy in thinking that our source of suffering come from outside. And also there is this mistake that our source of happiness also will come from something outside. Um, we see that a lot of times when we want something, we are very happy when we get it, but that happiness is very fragile. It's very impermanent. As soon as something threatens that which we have achieved, we suffer. So it's not a long-lasting happiness. Our happiness then is attached to some external idea of something outside of us. So this is also part of this ignorance that we would like to overcome. This is very, it sounds very when we see that in practice, I think one of the things I want to say is that what led me to look for a path like this is that at the time I was actually suffering from depression, suffering from anxiety and low self-esteem, and I thought that the world was my problem. I thought that the society, there was something about my relationships, and I always tried to find somebody or something to put the guilt on. But the moment I started looking deep into myself, I saw that I was getting stuck in mental scenarios that I was creating for myself. So when you have this realization, is a huge, what I like to call aha moment. You have this big aha moment because you realize that you are getting stuck by being attached to something very ephemeral. It's like to use as an analogy, like a child who creates a castle, a beautiful castle made of sand in the beach, and that child is very protective of the castle. He doesn't want anybody to get near, or because he doesn't want anybody to ruin his castle. But at the end of the day, he has to go home. The castle will be there, and the tide will go up, and the sea will destroy the castle. So all that attachment, all that frustration, and all that fear of something happening to the castle was really in vain, because at the end, all the things are impermanent. They are going to go away. Everything that is created from those mental scenarios, they are impermanent. So once we realize that, we have like a big aha. And this realization comes with something that in Zen is called the no mind. When we, again, through the practice of dhyana, we practice and we come to a state of thoughtless awareness. We are completely aware of our surroundings, aware of everything that is going on, but we are not thinking, or we have total control of our mind. Everything subsides. All the feelings of preoccupation, anxiety, feelings of depression, and so on, they subside. They simply fall, they tumble down, because once you learn how to switch off the mechanism that sustain those castles made of sand, they dismantle, they fall down. So in summary, when we practice dhyana, we want to achieve this state of no mind, this state of thoughtless awareness. And then when we come to that state, we see who we really are, what our true identities is. And in Zen, they illustrate that with analogy of the sky and the clouds. A lot of times we get worried because we get attached and identified with the clouds. And then there are many clouds in the sky. Sometimes there are so many clouds you can't even see the blue skies anymore. Well, like this afternoon in Calgary, it was like that, depending on where you were. And we get so much identified with those clouds, and every cloud is a piece of our identity in the world. There's the cloud of being a father or mother, a sister, a brother, an employee or an employer. And so all of us, we carry clouds with us, and we identify with those clouds. We think that those clouds are the core of our identity. For example, if you meet somebody for the first time and you're going to introduce yourself, like I did before, I described processes of relationships. I could not describe myself without describing a process of relationship with the world. So all these are clouds because these are mind dependent. However, permeating all that is the sky. The sky is this space of thoughtless awareness with no clouds, where you are free of all those clouds. Now, the same way the clouds arise in the sky, they stay in the sky for a little bit and they dissolve in the sky, so do our own clouds, our own identities. I bet you that 10 years ago you had different identities that you have today. Your reality was different because the way you related with the world was different. But one thing remained the same, which is the sky. And with those clouds, also with these identities, we have thoughts. All our thoughts are based on these identities that we play in the world. And those thoughts, they also carry emotions. Some of them carry emotion with them, which also has to do with how we relate with the world. So for example, let's suppose you joined a company that you always wanted and you're really happy to have that corporate job that you wanted, and all of a sudden you feel threatened by your coworkers because somebody wants that position that you have. Again, you are, through a process of relationship, having thoughts about it and having emotions about it. You have fear, you have anger, all attached to that scenario that is validating all that. But when we come to practice dhyana and we see that our identity is actually the sky, we get rid of all that, rid of those emotions. But of course, we still have to be in the world and play the game of the world. But when we get there and we have to play this game again, because we now know who we really are, we don't fall victims of those emotions, of those thoughts that come in a reactive way, that come in an automatic and reactive way. So when we are anchored in our realization that we are this sky of awareness, of consciousness, pure consciousness, we don't get hung up on small things anymore, and we don't suffer the consequences for being hung up on those small things. If things happen that are on our favor, good. If not, also good. You will come up with better alternatives for yourself. So through the practice of dhyana and through the coming of this realization, we end up regaining control of our lives, of who we truly are. We get control of our emotions, of our thoughts, and our minds. We don't let ourselves be slaves of our minds anymore, and the mental scenarios that consciously or unconsciously we have been creating for ourselves. So I guess this is the big point of why practice Zen, why practice dhyana. So there you go. Once also, I said in the beginning that Zen is associated with relaxation. And once we get to this realization of the sky, of our true identity, our true self, a big sense of joy and relaxation arises in us. And a state of happiness that is not dependent on anything external, because you came back home, you found yourself back home. So a great sense of relaxation comes. So this is why Zen is relaxation, but it's not a relaxation that is related to escaping the world. It's not the same relaxation that when, for example, you are stressed out and then, you know what, today I deserve a beer, or I deserve a dose of whiskey or whatnot because my day was very stressful. So, and then you go, you have your drink, or you have your smoke, or you go to the beach, or you go for a massage. And there is this relaxation, but it only lasts for a short time. The ultimate relaxation comes when, through the practice of dhyana, you have this realization that we are the sky. So there you go. That's why Zen has this association with relaxation. So having said all that, so I explained a little bit of the background of what Zen is, in terms of a set of teachings. I myself don't think of Zen as religion, because, like I said, it's not about, there's no set of beliefs, there's no dogmas, no do's and don'ts, no rights and wrongs, no shoulds and shouldn'ts. It all has to do with the practice of dhyana. And dhyana leads us to this moment, to the practice of letting our thinking minds go. And once that thinking mind go, we see reality for what it is, and we see ourselves for what we really are, and a great sense of happiness, joy, relaxation arises. Now, how to practice dhyana? Now, that's the kind of thing which is very important, right? Dhyana is not a type of meditation that use concentration. A lot of people think, and I hear this a lot when people come for the first time in my meetings, they say, oh, I don't know if I will be able to meditate because I cannot concentrate and I cannot stop thinking. Then I always say, okay, two things. First of all, it's not about concentration. We are not going to concentrate, because when we concentrate, we are focusing in one thing, in one object, being a visual object or a sound object, or even a thought, or chanting a mantra, and we are ignoring everything else. So it's like as if we are laser pointing our attention into something, to one thing. So this is concentration. But dhyana has nothing to do with concentration. We are not ignoring anything. Quite the contrary, we are actually opening up our senses to be aware of everything. And the other thing that when people tell me, oh, I cannot stop thinking, I always say, well, if you could stop thinking at will, that means that, well, you don't need it. You're already there. So it hasn't to do with concentration, and you don't have to shut down your thoughts. You don't have to repress your thoughts. So talking about the method of dhyana is when we sit in meditation is we accept the present moment as it is without interfering with the present moment. Now, when I say this, it seems very simple. And in reality, it is, because when we are sitting and allowing the present moment to be as it is, we are aware of all the sounds, and we are not judging the sounds. We are not saying, oh, this sound is appropriate, this sound is inappropriate. Oh, this sound is good, this sound is bad. No, we are just being aware of the sounds. And the same thing with every one of our 5 physical senses. We don't shut any one of them down. Quite the contrary. I always encourage also my students to meditate with their eyes open, so they are aware of the forms and the shapes that are in front of them. But if they have their eyes closed, I said, okay, just try not to let go of the awareness of the darkness in front of you when you have your eyes closed. So we open up to all the perceptions of all the 5 senses. We are aware of the sounds. We are aware of the taste in our mouth. We are aware of the smells. We are aware of our bodies. Now, the body is our anchor to this present moment. So I always like to emphasize that, yes, our body is our vehicle to experience this moment, to experience everything in the world. So we are aware of the body. We are aware of our breathing, and we don't have to interfere with our breathing. We're not doing any breathing exercises. We breathe naturally. We just allow our bodies to breathe naturally as they are. Again, like I said in the beginning, we are not interfering with the moment. So we are aware of the body, the breathing. We are aware of what we see, of what we hear, of what we smell, and the taste in our mouth. And also, we bring awareness also to our thoughts. Like I said, we don't repress our thoughts. The moment we start thinking that, oh, in order for me to shut down my mind, I need to stop thinking, this stop thinking is not something that is under our control, not in the beginning. When we are beginning our practice, beginning our steps in this path of dhyana, we just allow the mind to run wild as much as it wants to run wild. All we have to do is observe. And the same way we are observing the sounds and we are not making judgments about, oh, this sound is good or this sound is bad, the same thing about thoughts. When we are sitting in meditation and thoughts come and we are observing them, we are not judging them, whether this is beneficial or whether this is harmful, this is appropriate or inappropriate, and so on. We just observe them. We allow them to be. And there is absolutely no problem. As long as we don't get engaged in those thoughts and we lose our awareness, it's fine. This is the only thing that we have to be aware of, not to get lost in thoughts. But even if we do, the moment we remember, it's okay. Just bring yourself back to awareness. So we are aware of the 5 senses, plus the mind, plus the thoughts, and we also bring our awareness to our emotions. What were you feeling in the moment? Are we calm? Are we anxious? Are we nervous? Are we happy, elated? Or are we relaxed? Are we feeling hyper? Or feeling even a little bit like sluggish and tired? We again, we simply bring our awareness to it. We don't deny it. We don't repress it. So when we practice like this, we see that our experience in the world, they come from not only the five physical senses, but also from these other two dimensions, the mind and the emotions, the feeling. So we bring our awareness to all of them. We try to be as open as possible in all of them. So we don't, again, talking about concentration would be, yeah, I'm focusing in my breathing and I'm ignoring everything else. There are many methods of meditations that use this technique, but it's not dhyana. Dhyana, you let everything happen to you at that moment. You welcome reality to bring to you whatever reality wants to bring. You don't fight with existence. You get in tune with existence. In the beginning, yes, there will be, there is going to be a itch here, a itch there. The leg is going to start bothering here. Your back is going to start bothering. Something is going to happen, and you're going to have 1,001 thoughts per second. And sometimes some thoughts are going to come like with emotional charges. For example, all of a sudden you realize you forgot to pay your electricity bill. And then, oh, shoot, I have to go and I have to do this as soon as I'm done with this. So and then you're gonna have this experience that, oh, but when I sit in meditation, I have more thoughts. I have more. It's not that you have more. It's because all of a sudden you stopped and you are becoming aware of them. Now, this is practice. It comes with time. It comes, and I always say, with diligence. But the practice is so easy that it becomes difficult at the same time. So, for example, when we are, the way I like to always advise in the beginning how to start is take 5 minutes of your day. Only 5 minutes. All you need is 5 minutes. And you don't need to sit in a special position. You don't need a special room. You don't need a special, essential oil on the diffuser or an incense. No, you don't need anything special. In those 5 minutes, just sit and be with yourself. Be aware of the noises that are there in that moment. Are there cars on the streets? Are there kids playing? Are there people fighting? What's going on? Just be aware of that. You don't need to do anything else. Be aware of where you're sitting. Be aware of the scenario where you are in. And I even say to my students, grab a glass of wine or your favorite drink and drinking while you are appreciating that moment. Be aware of the taste of the wine. The wine is even going to taste better. Be aware of the taste. Be aware of the smell. Be aware of the glass you are holding on your hand. Put your favorite music on. And once you put your favorite music on, what does that do to you, to your emotions? If you put like a certain music that means something to you, that bring out emotions in you, also be aware of that reaction in your body. How is your body reacting to that? So you see, for those 5 minutes, you are practicing awareness. And the more you practice like that, the more your mind is going to start slowing down. Because when we are in the moment, the mind cannot sustain itself. So slowly and slowly, thoughts will start having gaps, and then longer gaps, and then bigger gaps, until the point that you are in a state of no mind, a state of thoughtless awareness, of pure consciousness. And that state is Zen. That state is where we want to get, free of the identification with all the mental scenarios, free of all the uh, reactive emotions and so on. So basically, this is what I would like to say today. We discussed what is Zen, where Zen comes from, very summarized, why you should bother about it, and a little bit of how to practice. Now, if you would like to practice in a session, I welcome you to send me an email, and I put you in an invitation list. When we resume our sessions in September, you can get notified. If you want to be part of that list, just send an email to Zen Meditation Cafe, one word, at gmail.com. So again, Zen Meditation Cafe at gmail.com. I also have a podcast that are in the all the major platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, and so on. It's called Zen Meditation Cafe. So you can. I know I haven't been too diligent in posting new episodes, but I'm gonna be doing it soon. Uh, but if you want to have more idea of what we talk about in our meetings and the things we practice, you can also check it out there. And so, yeah, I guess that's it. And I once again, I want to thank Robin for the opportunity, for allowing me to speak here in this awesome space that she has. And if there is anybody with any questions, I would be happy to answer them now.